go very quickly from here's how you do it to you do it. And what we're not doing is we're giving them the steps in between. So the next teaching practice I'd like to introduce you to is explicit language instruction, gradual release of responsibility. Assessment for learning as well. This is a teaching practice where what we do is instead of assessing at the end, we assess throughout the entire activity. So instead of saying, ready, set, go, try your best, not good enough, sorry, the game's over. What I want to do is constantly give them feedback. Well, you can try this. How was it? Is it working? Why is it not working? What could you do to make this better? Oh, you need paper, scissors, and glue. Okay, why don't we get paper, scissors, and glue and let's try that again. Assessment for learning means that I am assessing at the beginning, I am assessing at the middle, and I am assessing at the end. And my whole assessment is not to grade them or evaluate them. My purpose is to give them feedback to help them be more successful. For example, if I was coaching a soccer team, I'm going to stand on the edge of the field and go 6, 7, 8 out of 10, 5 out of 10. Because if I'm just yelling scores at them, it's not going to help them at all. If I'm a coach, I'm going to give them much more descriptive feedback. Assessment for learning means that we assess throughout the entire progress, and it's not for evaluation. It's to increase performance. Gradual release of responsibility. What I do as a teacher is I begin by, I'm going to do it. I'm going to demonstrate, I'm going to show you how it works. Then we're going to practice together. I'm going to do it while you give me some suggestions and feedback. And then I'm going to get you to do it together and give each other some feedback and suggestions to support each other. And I'm not going to ask you to do it in front of the entire class by yourself until you've had time to practice, 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 practice. Gradual release of responsibility means that first as a teacher, I am responsible. Then we are responsible. And then you are responsible. And then one person is responsible. And finally, explicit language instruction is based on the idea that I'm going to take what I know as a good reader, a good writer, a good speaker, someone who's good at math and science, and I'm going to take that knowledge and let you see how it works. I'm going to take what's inside my head and I'm going to reveal it and uncover it so that you can see very clearly what my expectations are, and so you can hopefully become a more proficient reader, writer, speaker, listener as well. Some examples of explicit language instruction, as well as assessment for learning. My students had a project. What I wanted to do is you tell me how you know it you're good at this. And this is what they created. This was not me. All I had to do for this entire activity was stand at the board and write down what they said. So I said, how would you know if someone was able to do a really good presentation? What would they have to do in class? What would they have to do outside of class? For writing instruction, before I give them an essay, I always start with saying, here's an example essay. Let's look at how somebody else organized it. Let's look at what type of grammar and language features this individual used. Let's read a whole bunch of this type of essay so that you can become much more knowledgeable and you understand what the end part looks like. Again, for good reading, I want to make it explicit what good readers do. For discussion skills, these are posters again that my students made in class. How do we know that we're having a good discussion? Because when people are getting smarter. Okay. So we have talked about a whole bunch of different strategies now. We have talked about inquiry. We have talked about cooperative learning. We've talked about gradual release. We have talked about assessment for learning. I'm going to take 30 seconds before we wrap up today's presentation. I'd like you to take a moment to look at the criteria again. Do you feel the teaching practices that we have spoken about this morning meet this criteria? Why does it meet this criteria? Why not? Please talk to each other. 30 seconds. teachers, if we try to ignore it, we are fighting a losing battle. Our students are walking into our classrooms with digital backpacks. They've got laptops, they've got tablets, they've got smartphones, they've got iPods, they've got MP3s. They've got it, and they want and know how to use it. So as teachers, instead of saying, get it out of my class, let's look at ways we can bring it into the class, but use it for learning purposes. Because what we have learned about students is they are very good at consuming technology. They are not very good at producing technology. And if they do not know how to use technology to produce, to show and demonstrate their knowledge, they are not going to be successful in today's knowledge-based economy. They need to know how to develop a website. They need to know how to use Twitter to network with individuals. If they don't walk out of our schools with these skills, we are doing a poor job preparing them for the types of experiences that they will have. So with today's presentation, use of technology a little bit challenging, but there are some ways that you can participate. If you have a phone where you can text, I'd like to ask you to quickly vote for what you think the most effective teaching practice is. How do you do this? So this is a phone number you're going to text the code to, 37607. You're going to put inside your text message one of these codes, depending on which one you would like to vote. The instructions for how to do this are in your PowerPoint notes and your program. Maybe what we'll do is during the break is give people an opportunity to vote for what they feel is the most effective teaching practice. Again, it depends on what you teach, where you teach, what type of students you have, which will impact usually your choice for what is the most effective teaching practice. I use this website called Poll Everywhere with my class frequently. So they'll come into class and I'll put up a poll and say, okay, so tell me what is the most significant moment in our novel that we're reading. And they'll have to text in a code. Can you imagine how quickly they come to class? And they're like, whoa, I got my phone and I'm ready to use it. They want to be there and they'll do it. So you can get these slides. They are in your PowerPoint. You can just use PowerPoint. So these are how. Oh, actually, let's take this one in because I don't want to expose it. Okay, our final thought. In today's classrooms, to be effective teachers, we want to change the type and the number of interactions that happen. We want to move away from I am here, you sit and you listen, I will tell you what you need to know. We want to increase interactions between students and teachers, increase interactions between students and students, so that classrooms become collaborative workspace based on getting smarter, constructing knowledge, rather than consuming knowledge. This is a symbol that's on the front of my surfboard. And I remember surfing one day, and I looked at this symbol, and I was like, this is exactly what teaching is. So I would say, teaching is all about endless progression. It's not about the teacher who you are today. Because I think sometimes we can sit and we can listen to presentations like this, and we think, oh my God, how am I going to do inquiry, collaborative, assessment for learning, different instruction? Oh my gosh. Take one thing. Take one thing with you and try it. If it works, great, keep it. If it doesn't, modify it, change it, and move on to the next one. Find what works for you as a teacher. Find what works for you as your student. It's not about who you are today. It's who you are becoming as a professional. And as I said, if you try to do everything at once, it's insurmountable, and teaching becomes difficult and impossible, and we leave with very little satisfaction in the job. Pick one thing. One thing you're going to try, you're going to take your classroom and give it a shot. So in my closing remarks, I'd just like to say, turn to your partner, turn to the person beside you, around you, somewhere, and just tell them what's maybe one thing that you would like to try in your classroom. Is it a quick activity? Are you going to try backwards by design? What are you walking away today thinking, I could do this in my classroom? saying we picked these strategies, we think these are the top or the most effective teaching strategies. I would like to say that I am here today on behalf of Simon Fraser University. I am here today on behalf of the Burnaby School District, and the following individuals have contributed to this presentation, and I wouldn't be able to be here today and present the information that I did without the help of these following individuals. I would also like to say thank you for being such a wonderful and attentive audience. Thank you so much for being here, and I'd like to congratulate you on your path towards professional development, and to say congratulations, because there's not every single teacher in this room, but it is great to see so many inspired individuals who are working towards a greater goal. Thank you for your attention today.
Share your comments, to reflect on the questions, if you have any.
And don't forget, you can also tweet if you're using Twitter.
Thank you so much for this wonderful showing today, and I have tried to follow the learning in my class. And most of the time it's successful, but I got one problem this year, because it's one very difficult kid, and he always screaming, shouting, fighting with others. So I could not put him in any of the groups, but I could not bring him with me all the time. So if that happens to you, how would you deal with this problem?
I think what you're doing sounds very good. And I would have to say that in an ideal world, all of these things will work, and you'll have a whole group of students who are going to be on board from day one to the end of the class. But we all know that there are different individuals in our class, and sometimes the strategies that we are using are not as effective because of the students that we are working with. My big advice, and definitely when I've been in the same experience, it's always been, what can I do tomorrow to get a little bit closer to what I would like to be doing? And really accepting that, okay, maybe this is not the way I would teach every class, isn't ideally how I want to teach, but based on the conditions I am working on, I might have to go back to doing some more traditional styles of teaching. The other thing I can say is oftentimes working with the rest of the students to say, how can we help so-and-so be more effective in this classroom? What could all of us do to be maybe a little bit more understanding? What can we do to be a little bit more patient? What can we do to be a little bit more welcome? And really talk to the students and say, I would like to be able to do this, but because of this situation, I'm not able to do this. How could you guys help me have this happen in our classroom? And sometimes they will solve the problem for you. And if they don't, at least they understand why sometimes as a teacher you're quite distracted, or why perhaps you're not doing the things that would be interactive and engaging for the rest of them. That would be my, I understand it's very hard, and I have had very similar situations.
Any other questions?
If you have time, in the next couple of days, please go to the Wallwisher site, www.wallwisher.wall/no school is an item. And for those things post, all you do is you double click on the screen, and it gives fact that you have a warm-up session shows that you are using universal design. So perhaps you didn't have the term, but the fact that you're even doing something right at the beginning of your class to have people come in and to connect them with what you're doing is a very good first step. To build on that, I would say you want to do it in different ways on different days. So for example, if I'm saying, okay, today we're going to be looking at how media impacts us. Maybe today I'm going to start with an advertisement and say, would you buy this item? Why or why not? And so individuals who are strong at visuals, reading visuals, individuals who like to discuss, that will be a nice entry point into the discussion for them. The next day I might show a quick video clip and say, what did you notice in this video clip about the decisions that the individuals made after they watched or saw that advertisement? And so now I'm providing an entry point through the video. It can't be every single day. I need to have 20 different ways for students to interact with the content, but it needs throughout the learning unit or throughout the maybe a 3-day lesson, I'm going to provide different ways for them to come into it, provide different things for them to be doing in the class, and then provide different exit points. You'll probably find if you try to do everything in one day, way too chaotic. It's throughout the entire learning unit that you are trying to provide those multiple points of entry and exit. Yes, yeah. So for Publisher, how it works is you just come to the center of the screen, you double click, it'll give you a post-it note, you go ahead and you type it. You don't need to sign in, you don't need to log in, you don't need to do any of those things. And I'll show you very quickly. Yes, yeah. And anybody can respond. Yeah. So for example, this is a wall that my students made. And so their homework was to go home and post on the wall what they wanted to do for their project and see if they could find other people who wanted to be involved in their same project. And I came back the next day and I had for one post-it note, the next day. So it's a good way to continue the conversation even after your class is over.
Helen for a very informative session, and we will now turn the floor to Helen on the next day.